back to our big, this will not be death by PowerPoint. Nikhil and I are trying to keep this literally to 3 slides. I think I'm at 6, but that's not terrible. And if you have ideas about the topic that we'll be covering, recruiting, retaining people, even if there's regeneration or something like that, rejuvenation, I think was the third piece of that, you're always welcome to throw them into chat. I will prompt you so that people can pull the information all together. But if you have a great idea, I'd love you to share it, because I think the best ideas come from the collective of this group, not Nikhil and I think we just kind of volunteered to help facilitate the conversation from what we're seeing nationally. So I'm gonna mute you once in a while. Okay, let's get started. No worries. Yep. If you do need to stay on mute or whatever, totally fine. Keep it in. Do what you need to help take care of stuff. So let's just jump right in. As I said, Nikhil and I are happy to lead this webinar with you all, hopefully share a couple nuggets and tips, and also encourage you to learn from each other. We titled it Meeting the Needs of Your People. So this is really internal focus to recruiting and retaining your staff, and rejuvenating, maybe feel a little bit refreshed. This webinar was in a series of 3 that we offered this fall together. So 110% Kaizen came together to offer this just from kind of different perspectives and what we're seeing nationally. I'm Farrell Buller. If I haven't had the chance to meet you, I would love to. Those of you that I know, I'm happy to see your faces again and see your names. I have the opportunity of working with 110% and leading projects in financial sustainability, a lot of adaptive leadership and ethical decision-making, all in the streams of local government. I'll let Nikhil go ahead and introduce himself.
Thanks so much, Farrell. Brilliant as always, and glad to lead the webinar with you. My name is Nikhil. I'm one of the co-founders of Kaizen. I am just a engineering and tech nerd that likes making websites, and started Kaizen because I had trouble booking municipal golf courses in Los Angeles, and now we're here. So very excited to be here and share some learnings with you all, and vice versa.
Good deal. Let's see. So we're going to start with this. The idea, again, was recruiting, retaining, and rejuvenating. And I thought I would, instead of telling you how to rejuvenate, I thought we would just do it. So those of you that know me, I have a little bit of an executive coaching thread background. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to drop you into a breakout room with a couple of people. You may or may not know them. I'd love you to just say hello, good morning, good afternoon, and just introduce yourself for a minute or 2. I will see you back here in about 2 or 3 minutes. If you don't want to join, that's fine, but I would love, love, love to see you. Just go meet somebody else that's on this call today. I think some people are going to be coming back. I just closed their rooms. They should have about 60 seconds to pop on back in here. I don't know. Does anybody freak out when they see that countdown come across their screen? Like the room is closing. Some people are like, get out of here, right? And other people, they just talk faster and faster. And some people talk louder and louder. And they're just like, okay, so, and it's like, okay, I know it's a countdown, but it's really just going to bring you back to the place where you started. You're safe here. You're good. But yes, I always accidentally just click the button for whatever reason, and I just jump out of it. I'm like, I can't do it. So welcome back. I hope you met somebody new, or seen a familiar face. Did you all get a chance to say hello to somebody?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Was it scary or is it okay? Yes, I know. He's like, yes, both, right? Some of you do it every day, and other people are like, she's seriously doing this. Yes. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk first about this idea of recruiting for a minute. And any of your job descriptions seem to look like this. Wanted a golf course superintendent. We need a college grad with extensive knowledge in the field. Turf management, horticulture, irrigation, design, repair, construction, personnel management. I mean, just a handful of things, right? You have to be willing to work as many hours necessary to get the job done, regardless of your personal life. You'll be willing to work hundreds of bosses who will second guess every decision that may or may not be your customers, just saying. Be expected to forecast, compensate you for your budget. Every whim of nature you should probably understand. The ability to motivate underpaid employees and produce top quality work. All these goals must be accomplished without interruption to play or inconvenience to the members, right? And finally, your office is actually in a barn. Okay, a little bit sarcastic, hopefully a little bit funny. How are we actually recruiting our people today, right? And what I wanted to talk about was, I'm going to pitch it to Nikhil and ask him some questions. I'm going to pull one perspective and then I'm going to ask him to pull another one. But if you have an idea, as we're talking about, here's the best thing my organization is doing to recruit people, drop it in the chat. Here's the very best thing that we're doing. Here's what's working. As we start talking about recruiting, the first thing I wanted to think about is how many people do you really need right now that are excellent? I went to Wyoming Department of Transportation to do some work a few weeks ago. They literally need 400 FTEs, 400 people. That feels very overwhelming. Other organizations that I talk to, they really just need 2 or 3 people that aren't warm bodies, that are smart and that are good, right? And so the approach is going to be different. I'm not saying one blanket is fits all. What I will tell you with recruiting on the flip side, the most common thing I get from people that are job searching is, one, how impersonal the process starts to feel. They never hear back. They're an applicant of 200, whatever the thing is. And I'll share the second one in a second, but Nikhil, you have had some experiences. You're starting up your company the last few years. You have this vision you need carried forward. The quality of people that you need certainly matches the quality needed in our local governments and parks and recreation systems. So kind of on that idea of impersonal, finding people that follow the vision, what are some things you're seeing and doing at Kaizen?
Yeah, thank you so much for queuing me in, Farrell. I mean, I think the biggest thing that we have been looking for, what is really interesting to me is when we're on the private sector side. We build with communities, and our customers are our local governments, but we're a private sector business. And I think what I'm seeing is a real love for people who have been, and we're a technology business. So a lot of people have been spending most of their careers working at large tech organizations, big data companies. The AI craze is real and taking the world by storm. And there are a lot of people that are like flocking to your OpenAIs or your Anthropics, if that's a name that resonates with people. But a lot of folks have actually kind of taken a reverse turn where they're saying, hey, I'm really passionate about working with the public sector, but I have this skill set in data science or technology or engineering and programming, and I can't really find an opportunity to do that in a local government. A city is not really hiring a front end software engineer or a full stack software engineer, but I want to work with these institutions. And what we often end up finding is, I remember that screenshot that I sent you. There was someone who actually, him and his husband got married at a local park facility, and they ended up trying to book and reserve. Oh, great, this one. So they ended up trying to book and reserve a pavilion in one of the communities that we're working with, and they said, "Hey, I tried to go reserve this Ramada and I couldn't find it." And there was a little bit of like a mission alignment there, where I think what we often end up finding is that individuals have had their own experience working with or through a local government, and they want to use their skill set to be helpful and be a part of the change. And maybe for them, their skill set is sort of mostly tailored to having worked in public sector their entire career. And that's where we found a lot of success, asking people, hey, what are you really running towards? What kind of mission do you want to work on or tie yourself to? And that for us has been the instinct, where the best people that we have hired, I think, kind of had that little bit of a fire. One of our designers, Kelly by name, she started her career in design because she was working in a state Senate office and was really confused by some of the technology tools that she was using on a day-to-day basis, and was like, I think I'm going to go be a product designer. And I think it's no wonder why she's one of our best team members. And so there's a real close mission link, even though many of these folks haven't actually spent a large portion of their career in public service.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting when you say that too is the ability to take the skills that you have and that you're really good at, add some passion behind it, and then kind of reinvent yourself a little bit. I think one thing I noticed when I was interviewing people for director level positions, coordinator positions, right? The whole slew is that they have these awesome skills that may not be the same language that we use, right? And so transitioning a little bit or articulating them a little bit differently, I think from the recruiting side, I would say there was a number of times that although, these might be my top 6 candidates for a position, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start with 15-minute interviews, 3 questions. And I would actually extend that to 10. What that did is that allowed me to get to know other people that I might be interested in for other positions, right? They might not be perfect for that, but I knew there was something else coming, or I wanted to just get to know people differently. So, yeah, and your example up here that's on here, the blue is what Nikhil had written, this Brandon person, and then the black was his response. I think the other key piece to this is like you've already started a little bit of a relationship, right? Like that personalization. People want to work for someone these days and with a company these days where they are connected, right? They care about the mission, they care about the people, they feel they're going to be valued, things like that. Um, the other thing I would say with recruiting is, I don't know, how often do you try to go find the person that you need and you want, right? We put out a post, but it's like, I am literally looking for the people that I'm going to hire and who I want to work with and who might be amazing in my organization, sometimes even prior to the post. Tell me a little bit about that, or tell us a little bit about maybe those ideas.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for us, the it's been really hard. I think it's been much easier over the last 3 or 4 months. The first year and change was super difficult for us in trying to think about, hey, we're a technology business and we work with local governments, so we don't have the funding that OpenAI has, and we can't pay the salaries that a company like that can pay. But we really want the highest quality talent. We have an office here where I am in New York, and people are 3 days a week in person, which I have strong opinions about as well. And we're in person here in our office building for local government. And so we're trying to hire the best technical talent. And we're like, well, you have your option of working at Facebook, working at OpenAI, working at a number of budding startups that are growing in big cities like LA, New York, the Bay Area. Why should you work here? The biggest thing that we have found, Farrell, that's made us a lot more successful at recruiting has been where we're putting out our JDs and who we're engaging with. As a great example, there's a phenomenal recruiting pipeline and organization here, 2 of them that we work with. One is called the Recur Center, which I know sounds funny, but it's a rehabilitation retreat for engineers. So engineers that go work at really large tech organizations that feel burnt out and don't really want to spend the rest of their career working for big tech, they go to this place called the Recur Center. It's an in-person center in Brooklyn where all you do for 2 months, and you got to pay your own way. So the people that are there are really dedicated to just actually trying to get a break, and you have to work on an engineering project that's really interesting for you, and you have to make a presentation about it. So people are working on, I saw one 2 weeks ago where someone was building an app where they're using AI tools to scan their ebooks, and every chapter they would use an AI tool to auto generate black and white image of the chapter that they're reading, because they were saying that their attention span is lower than they want, and they think that pictures are really going to help them kind of better engage. And that was just a project they worked on. And those folks are coming to us and saying, wow, I really want to work on a company that has a strong mission. And they're kind of a lot more excited from the very beginning. I'm not having to do so much convincing to say, hey, maybe you should make less money and work on a mission that's really important. It's instead, hey, I'm really excited about building for a purpose that matters. The other one that we really use is a organization called Built in NYC, where it's only for mission-driven organizations. Or there's another organization called Technologists for Public Good, people that have already really had strong technology skills that kind of want to use it in the public sector, but are just looking for opportunities to run free. Our conversion rate with those kinds of candidates is on upwards of anywhere from 50 to 70%. And our conversion rate for candidates where we're just kind of blindly posting job descriptions on LinkedIn and waiting for people to apply is much lower, kind of on the order of like 10 to 15%.
Interesting. Well, and what I think is hopefully starting to be heard by people that are here is that, you're a private company, you're kind of a niche focus, right? You're having some of the same struggles, finding really great people, right, to think. However, there's a way to do it if you start doing it different. Tracking your conversion rates, paying attention to how you're spending your energy, setting up systems where people can like, hey, pitch to you a little bit. I think all of those things are viable. Some of them we use really well in local government. Some of them I don't know if we do. If you're on the flip side of recruiting, you want to be recruited, I would say get your stuff together, right? Get organized, get your stuff together. I'll tell you that the two previous positions I have, there was no job description that was put out, right? There wasn't something, yes, I ended up applying, but there wasn't a job from the start for those two companies. The three prior positions that I held before that, I actually wasn't qualified. If we looked paper to paper requirement versus my paper, I actually wasn't qualified for any of those positions based on what HR said. Yet I was able to secure each of those positions. And so I think when you're recruiting, know who you want, know what's expected, go find that person a little bit differently, stay connected and be professional. Gosh, and put your person forward that's like happy working there, that really likes working there, right? Like, I think that makes a huge difference in attracting somebody that wants to be there. Yeah.
Quick thing I wanted to add actually that I wanted to share what maybe I think one of my mistakes actually in the early days was and maybe I'm curious how it is for I think there's a lot of assistant directors, recreation leaders in the room. Is I very quickly removed myself from the recruiting process early on, where we started growing a big team, and there were a bunch of people in the process that were like, "Well, our recruiter is the one that's reaching out to candidates and
Mm-hmm.
getting scheduled. They meet with the engineering team that does the interviews, and then they find someone, and then there's like it finally comes to me at the very end of the pipeline, the process. And then what I ended up realizing is we started asking candidates for feedback, and they were saying, well, it would have been really nice to have talked to a little bit like the company's leader earlier in the process to kind of gain my own personal excitement about why I should work here and why it's valuable. And I started asking their feedback about, hey, I know this didn't work out here, you turned our offer down, or we had some feedback that maybe it wasn't the best fit, would just love to have a conversation about it. And they were like, if I had the opportunity to have coffee with you for 30 minutes, I think I would have been a lot more excited about what the company is doing and the mission of the company. And I think that was a really big wake up call for me where I was like, wow, part of my job is actually to be the best possible recruiter for the business as I can. And it was like a really big moment for me where I was like, wow, I thought very quickly I could remove myself from that process. And now I see it as probably the most important priority I have. So I don't know, just a weird thing. I don't know if it
Yeah.
makes sense.
I think that's really true. And I think your best people forward in certain things, especially like that. I would say the other thing in recruiting, as you're starting to select candidates, I encourage that coffee chat, kind of like you mentioned. Figure out who you're really getting and let them know what they're really getting. You don't want to get to the end of a recruiting and have that person say no, right? Just because. And so it's like, let them know if they're coming in to kind of like a little bit of a hot mess, let them know, hey, you're coming into a little bit of hot mess. This person internally also applied. They might have a little bit of edge. Do you have some grit? Like, are you okay working through that? I know in each position, people want to know what they're going to get, especially if they're leaving something pretty decent. And so the more that you can be real and be personable, I think helps people be able to say yes. It's kind of a two-way interview as you get kind of to the top of that. So all right. Again, if you have a really awesome recruiting tip or tool that is really working for you and you're like, nailed it, drop it in the chat if you have a link or something. I love the organizations that have gone to like a 2 or 3 sentence job description. They have a video attached, right? That's about their company, or they have something that really is like, here's who we're actually looking for. Yeah, this is all the stuff you have to do, but here's the person that we need. Kind of blending those what I would say like business skills, not soft skills, business skills with kind of analytical skills. The other person to check out, and I'm not trying to recommend somebody, but Susan Frew I think is really interesting. She does not have anything to do with local government, anything with Parks and Recreation. She was doing a cleaning and a maintenance company. She was the owner, CEO, and she realized she wasn't getting quality people. So she literally reinvented the whole way of doing it and creating the system. Like you said, she led from the front of who she wanted to hire. I love studying organizations and people that have nothing to do with local government to help us solve some of these things. So, okay, here's what we're going to do next. This is going to be a little bit of a switch. So we're going to talk about the opposite side of this idea of retaining people. So you have somebody in there, and whether they've started or you've noticed a switch, or gosh, you've been there forever, they've been there forever, whatever the deal is, right? How do you retain people these days? And retain the right people, the people that you really want to be retaining. I think, 10, 15 years ago, we used to kind of think, I think we thought a lot of people were dime a dozen, honestly. It's like, well, if somebody leaves, we'll just replace them. I think that's how we worked through the 90s, most of 2000s. Loyalty is different, right? Cause is different. Um, I think you can still do a great job retaining people. So Nikhil, what would you say a lesson learned or something that you're doing that's really focused on retaining your people? I know you're doing some really cool stuff.
Yeah, this is a good question, and I think I have mostly learned by trial by failure. I think is probably my best answer, honestly, but I think that's how I've learned the most. I think a lot of what, when and I try really hard to be just objective when people come to me and they're like, hey, and I almost always it happens, right? I think every year, folks that work in the organization will say, hey, I got a really amazing promotion to go like run a product team at this new company. We actually just had this. One of our product leads got an amazing promotion to go run a larger product organization at a much bigger company with like 500 people, and it just made the most sense for her. And so I feel like in that scenario, my job is actually not even to try and keep the person, but to actually be like, yeah, you should take this job. Like this actually makes a lot of sense for you. Because for me, I feel like I learned honesty is really important in that stage where sometimes my failure to retain people actually was me wanting to kind of dangle like a little bit of a carrot in front of someone and say, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z, like maybe we'll get here and then we can have a very different conversation about you being in a different role. And instead, I probably should have said, hey, this is the role that the company needs right now. And I need you to be excellent in your role. I think in the case of engineering, the conversation I have a lot of really talented programmers is the problem right now is you are here to put your brilliant head on a lot of hard technical
Want
problems
to hear something crazy? What?
to eliminate that
You know
contact.
the software that y'all just downloaded?
Which
Uh-oh.
Software for what?
The complete 15 collector's edition software for
Found you. Okay.
No, you're all good. I think that's my main job is to just be honest. And I think what I've feel like I have done differently that has actually been the key to making people really happy here is actually just by being really brutally honest sometimes. And sometimes I feel like my job is actually sometimes to say no and to just be really honest about the no. And I think sometimes people are like, oh, Nikhil, like that was a hard thing. But very quickly, 2 weeks later, if you're right and you made the right decision, I think they come back and they're a lot more thankful that you just said no and you communicated with honesty. And I think people see you as actually caring for their interests a little bit more thoughtfully than just trying to dangle a little bit of a carrot and try and get the most out of them at every point in turn. So for me, it's been being more honest. I think the other thing has been learning when people pull the fire alarm to actually just kind of sit and listen a little bit. I had a bad habit early on where I wanted to be so fast with everything, like go, go, go. Progress is everything. Be like very relentless about how much code we write, ship everything. But I think soon as you start building trust with your team, we just have a really good state now where when they pull the fire alarm and they're like, hey, this actually is a little too much, or maybe this is something we should say no to. It's been a big indicator for me to actually just kind of, run slow to run fast, if you will. And I think that has been a big marker of people really feel like when they pull the fire alarm, there's that trust there where we're going to walk into a conversation and we may end up with like different outcomes, but at least I think they're a lot more receptive to disagreeing and committing than me just kind of like making a quick call. So I think for me, it's been being a lot more honest with the team and being a lot more gracious in moments where people actually feel like they need to be heard and just kind of sit, slow down, and like have their thoughts heard has made the team just a lot more willing to just be excited about this for the long term. I think would be the two biggest things.
Good. Well, and two of the pieces that you said, I think we are seeing a lot of, and some of you on this call probably have way more knowledge than me on it, but one is kind of being real with people, right? I think we have a handful of staff coming in and like literally 6 months a year, and they're like, I should probably be the director. I could probably do your job, right? I think sometimes y'all make it look really easy, or they're like, yeah, I whipped through that. The process, the system, the policy, the governance. It's like that's like secondary to them just moving up. I'm not saying that's everywhere, but I'm seeing it's more and more. And so it is that honest conversation of like, hey, here's what it takes, or hey, this is why that background information is important, or hey, here's how you can get some of those building blocks. The self-accountability piece of people being responsible for their own path. I think should be stated more and more. It's not actually my employer's role to help me move up, right? I don't want them to hinder my movement, but that's one thing I've noticed. I think the other piece was actually talking to people, connecting, asking, how's it going? What can I do? What's your bandwidth? You have people that want a really big chunky project, and you have people that are maxed out. And so finding that line and that connection. And I also think asking people like that you want to stay, hey, what will keep you here for another year? What will keep you here for 5 years? They may or may not even know, but at least have honest conversations so they're thinking about it. I don't think anybody's going to say this, but I would also say, like, if you have that super toxic person, get rid of them. Like, I know you might be afraid to. I know it may take a long time. It is ruining the opportunity of the whole rest of the culture. I know it will suck. I get it. But it's just a hindrance. And it's really a bummer for that person too, right? Like, I put this next slide in here because I was meeting with this man, Elia Gregoria last week, and he studies happiness for a living. And I know some of you are going to be like, Farrell, your cheese ball. But literally, he studies happiness and he connects it to like chemical endorphins in the brain, right? He used to be a clinical psychologist. He teaches on the mental health network. And basically what he's saying is, like, when people actually are happier, connecting all these pieces, here's what it does. It improves productivity. It helps them sell products. You're all selling a product. I know you don't think in sales, but in Parks and Rec, you're all in sales. You're selling something. You want consumers to buy from you. Just all that, they're not sick as often. They come to work more often, right? And so if you bucketed it down to one thing of helping people, it's like, how can we help in their happiness? I'm not saying do everything that's illegal or normal, but you want them to generally like their job 80% of the time, right? 80% of the days. Nikhil, what were you going to add for this?
Yeah, I mean, on the note of us sharing, also, I'm trying to figure out this Zoom React thing. Oh, I gotta.
Oh,
Okay.
I know. It's kind of hard. Sorry.
No, you're all good. Speaking of being super aligned on some of these things, some things that you mentioned that really kind of sparked it in me was one, what you just said about really good team members being proactive and kind of what's really interesting about smaller technology companies, right? Between, like, 20 to 100 employees is so much of the business changes every couple of months. And the people that end up uh, creating such a name and a path for themselves are the ones that are the most adaptable, that kind of knows, hey, the business is in this different stage and we're going from 0 to 1 to 1 to 10, and it requires different parameters. And the best people so far that I've had the pleasure of working with have been able to kind of sense that really quickly and then immediately understand what is the most valuable thing that they can be doing, and then kind of proactively coming back. And you mentioned this note about toxic folks. We have a slightly, like, it's similar but a slightly different way of perceiving it at the company here. And my biggest learning has been, when you work with people you like, the organization, like, the velocity increases by an order of magnitude. And then most importantly, someone said this to me a long time ago, and it finally makes sense, where they were like, Nikhil, my biggest fear is not having to go into the room and get rid of a C player every single day. If I had to do that every single day, it sucks. It's a painful decision. It's like, the worst part of business is having to like let go of people and exit them from an organization. But I would do that every single day of the week, because my biggest fear is not actually that a C player gets exited from the company. My biggest fear is that the A players, and your A players, come to you 6 months down the line and they're like, Nikhil, I know what good looks like. This isn't good. I'm working with a bunch of people that are C players and I don't want to be here anymore. And so I'm leaving. And that to me is the biggest fear in the organization. And it's like, working as hard as I can to make sure that that never happens, to me, is like the sort of higher order priority goal. And it sounds counterintuitive directly to your point, Farrell. It's about when
Yep.
you know who you need to keep and you can empower them, it's a very different organizational
Yeah.
mechanic.
If I'll be like, you want to keep that person or this person? Like,
Yeah.
you're literally making a choice. And if this level of work is acceptable, then that's more of what you're going to get, right? Okay, so we've shared 8 to 10 concepts. I know there's a bunch of you on here. You're not going to chat out loud. I get it. Allie, thank you for dropping that in. Yes, working understaffed, then with the person that's like literally draining your energy every single day. So that's good. A good reminder. And it's okay to have those conversations. If you need somebody to practice those good, hard conversations with, you can call me. It's okay to say, hey, clearly it's not working. Let me help you get to where you're your best. All right, I'm going to pop you back into your same breakout rooms, 2 or 3 minutes. Share an idea, an aha, or ask a question to that person. What's something they know that they're doing well? What's something they do good in their organization? I'll see you back here in about 3 or 4 minutes. All right. Okay, so hopefully that went well for you. If not, I mean, just say it did. It's fine. Okay. You are all doing really important jobs that are really hard. And I think whether you're recruiting or you're retaining or you're trying to rejuvenate, um, I think it's hard to remember that sometimes just like work and workforce has shifted. So be malleable, be shifting with it. Know that it's part of the process. Lean on people who are doing a great job and not having the same pain points as you. My hope is that you met somebody on this call or that you have the opportunity to talk to somebody later. I only know a handful of you, but you have some amazing directors in here and assistant directors that are phenomenal leaders doing things in different states. Since rejuvenation was a third piece of this, we're going to switch gears for our last couple minutes. And instead of talking about rejuvenating other people, again, I want to bring that to you. So hopefully just seeing another human or saying hi to somebody was a step. What I was thinking, I don't know who's funny in this group. I'm really hopeful somebody is, but I wanted to do this thing called Capture That. And so when you're thinking of like you're recruiting and how it's going, or retaining people and how it's going, or just, I don't know, your day in government. I'm going to put up an image and I'm giving you about 30 seconds to think of what the caption would be with regards to your work in local government. And then on the count of 3, we're all going to put them in the chat. Okay, so here's our caption. This could be Parks and Rec, could be recruitment, could be retaining people, however you want to answer it. So think what you would caption this image. Write it in chat, but don't hit enter yet. Some of you are like, there's no way I'm not doing this. It's fine. Some of you are like, I got you. This is how I kind of learned who was funny. Like we did do this at staff exercises, maybe. But I was like, gosh, these people are so funny. I need to hang around them more. Okay. All right. Hopefully there's a few in the chat. Caption this. On the count of 3, you're going to hit enter. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, so you can go into your chat and read them when the supervisor tells you the tea you've been waiting to hear all day. You call the Parks report. You're paying attention to the board members. Absolutely. Thank you, Sandy. Did he really take his swimsuit off in the hot tub? Kevin, I'm sure they did. And I tell you your hot tub story often, just saying. I quit. I feel most days. Oh my gosh. Baby Ruth in the pool. One more time. Go be recruited full hybrid with a meeting. On that side, right, Tyler? Yes. If one more person brings up pickleball, I promise I wasn't going to say AI today. Nikhil, you're allowed to say it because you're in the tech industry, but I was like, okay, I won't say it today. All right. Well, thank you for playing along for a second. If I had one more tip on rejuvenating today, so you've met somebody, right? Hopefully you've connected. Hopefully you've smiled or at least smirked at somebody's answer. The third thing that I've learned about really rejuvenating, and those of you that are book readers, one of the books I really like and believe in is called The Go-Giver, right? And the concept behind The Go-Giver is that you just do something for somebody else. So if I had one other tip about rejuvenating today, it would be now, later, after this call, whatever, send somebody else something nice. Like just because. It can be a text, it can be an email, it can be a call. I don't know. I have that friend that I always sing to. It can be a song, a quote, whatever, but literally just send something out nice to somebody. You'll already start feeling rejuvenated. You'll already start feeling better about things. So with that, Nikhil, any final words before we hop off today?
No, thank you all so much for the time. This is super fun.
That's good. Um, we put our emails up there if you want to connect with either one of us, if we can be thought partners for you, share ideas, trade ideas, we're happy to do that. Earlier this year, I think I led a thing on like hiring. So just want like a bunch of hiring ideas. I think we've collected like 50 or 60 from you all and from another colleague, Joe Burns, if you just like want that packet. So whatever we can do to help you down the road, we're happy to. Thank you for the time today. Thank you for serving others, and I hope you have a great holiday.